Welcome to Deleted Saves. On this episode, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon on PS5. In the year 49 BCE, Gaius Julius Caesar stands on the north banks of the Rubicon River, considering his options. He was a governor appointed by the Republic of Rome to safeguard the land between Gaul and Illyricum. But he has decided the world is not enough for him. By crossing this river, he presses civil war south upon the Republic and will ultimately, as history will record it, become emperor and dictator for life, charting the course of all Rome that will take upon the world stage. With his words, Alia iacta est, translated to, the die has been cast, he crosses and changes the course of history. How does this event tie into a Japanese game about towering fighting robots on a planet for a fuel source? While it may be tangential, it still has a role to play. Let's discuss that with 2023's Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. Believe it or not, this is my first ever Armored Core game, and I feel probably a lot of folks' first Armored Core game too. I know this has been a FromSoft staple for decades, but I'll be honest, giant fighting robot games lost their interest for me after a few rounds of Rock'em Sock'em Robots back in the 80s. I've seen some mecha anime and quickly decided the melodrama wasn't for me, and I haven't watched any giant robot movies. Sorry, Pacific Rim fans. What was it that drew me to this game? Well, the answer is simple. A Let's Play channel. Woolly Versus, to be specific. I was watching his run-through of this game, and it looked fun. Like it might even have some echoes of the Soulsborne formula. So I got a copy for myself. And honestly, while it actually has very little to do with FromSoft's other titles, it was a pretty good ride. You step into the 40-meter-tall shoes of 621, an augmented human in charge of piloting the giant robot you will see throughout the game. Well, you don't actually command or see or help design the look of 621. They are just the meat inside the machine. To be honest, while you meet a number of personalities, you don't ever actually see anyone in this game. Most interactions are done through remote transmission. Go here, destroy that sort of thing. You aren't really here for the humanity anyway. You are here to turn tons of steel into scrap metal. You are thrust out onto the surface of a planet called Rubicon, where once a fuel source and data conduit known as Coral, something so great the United Space Planet, whatever the fuck we call them, let's just say Whale and Yutani for simplicity's sake, as that's pretty much the model for them here, and all the independent corporations that are bristling with mercenaries and willing to kill for, came from. But it was burned, so they say, by the people who settled Rubicon, just so the corporations and the military government across the rift of space would stop fighting. 621 isn't supposed to be here. The fact that we were there smuggled onto the planet by their handler Walter, the first voice that we meet. The mission, or the first mission among many, is to steal a call sign from a dead and destroyed mech in Merc, and one is soon found, a still active one called Raven, which is what 621 will be known for as the rest of the game. Raven, as we now are, must take jobs Walter sets up, all corporation stuff. Go here with your monster machine and wipe out the rebels. Go here and climb a dam wall, as in hydroelectric dam, to defeat a corporate killer tank bigger than 3 of your mechs put together. But always you are chasing the hint of Coral, which it seems was not wiped out entirely, and the locals have been hiding from the corporations. Raven is the ultimate mercenary, and Walter is not exactly your friend. However, during one mission, Raven gets hit with a wave of Coral residue from a reactor, and suddenly a new voice enters the chorus, Ira, who does not say who she sides with at first, but it is later revealed she is kind of the spirit of Rubicon and the Coral, and she feels that Coral can be used by all, safely, without corporate or military interference. Ira becomes Walter's counterpoint, arguing his points only for Raven to hear. Missions net you corporate credits with which to alter and upgrade your machine. With new heads, torsos, arms, legs, and of course, a bevy of weapons including Gatling guns, laser shotguns, turret-mounted multi-stage homing missile launchers, laser swords, and whatever your little Gundam-loving heart desires. It is really easy to see that mecha anime is the biggest influence for this game and its series, and why not? This is a Japanese game, and shows like Mobile Suit Gundam and Evangelion were as prevalent for kids who grew up in Japan as shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and The Real Ghostbusters were for kids of a certain age here in the States. But always, your job is to go somewhere and blow shit up real good, kicking full-size SUVs like they were Hot Wheels cars, and scaling skyscrapers with your booster rockets and brooding atop them like a mechanical Batman. And to that point, well, I guess the biggest flaw of the game is that no matter where you go or what the point is, the mission structure is exactly the same. Destroy other robots for cash and giggle to augment your own suit. Whether delving into mines, rocket boosting at breakneck speed through future past megacities, or scaling Godzilla-sized Earth movers that have been retrofitted as weapons of war, your job is to go and destroy at the behest of a voice you only know from a telephone call, or a psychic vision. 621 really is kind of a brainless meat sack, aren't they? But things do ramp up during the mid-game, when the Planetary Closure Administration, or PCA, shows up to kick out all the corporations and mercenaries and claim the coral from themselves. I mean, the good of the Empire of Earth. The PCA has all the best toys, huge really, really the best. And all the corporations and the rebel alliances gather together and cannot shake them off. But here comes Raven to save the day. And save it you shall by wiping out critical PCA infrastructure and dueling its best pilots and their own armored cores to the death, culminating in a battle against a drilling machine the size of Manhattan Island known as the Ice Worm. And this climactic battle causes the PCA to flee Rubicon altogether, instead of like what would happen in real life, where they would buy off or nuke the corporations until they quit and just take what they wanted. Anyway, the alliance quickly collapses back into squabbling and backstabbing among the corporations, and Walter is trying to play all hands against each other, and Ira is trying to get it across to 621 that he is full of shit and has some sort of endgame of his own planned. This comes in the form of the discovery of an ancient future technology city that was designed to mine coral and send it freely into space. Walter, and another of his voices from beyond, known as Carla, say they know what a danger this was, and need Raven to stop it as the corporations have raised this city into its final Transformers-like form as a space travel vehicle capable of flying as a megacity. It's very weird, I know. Ira, however, says that was never the plan, and that Coral was a uniting force. And as she is the spirit of the planet and of Coral, she wants all humanity, augmented humanity, and the Rubiconian Coral folks be united as one. This is where you, as the player, have to decide one of two ends to the game. So, spoilers, you cowards. If you side with Walter and Carla, Ira cuts off contact with you as you destroy her forces that she has taken control of and the remaining corporations until you slam the Star Destroyer into the Coral refinery, dooming the future of Coral. If you side with Ira, you liberate Rubicon, which is what I did, and spread the Coral across the galaxy far and wide at the cost of needing to kill Carla and Walter, who show up in their own mech suits. However, it turns out there is a third option. Should you complete both endings on successive New Game Plus modes, a third option, titled Alia Iacta Est. Ha! Told you I'd come back around to that. In which Ira discovers there is a hidden data breach inside the mercenary network Allmind, hinting that Coral was intended to be a human evolutionary step to create a universe and symbiosis for the Coral. Allmind, directs Raven from this point, and we learn that it has been sucking up all the consciousnesses of all the killed Armored Core pilots to run the galaxy under its own control, rather than free will. All Mind destroys the remaining PCA and corporations with their own gear, tries to absorb Raven, but he and Ira break free and destroy All Mind, releasing the Coral themselves, and 621 and Ira become unified as one being. They awake on some distant planet, watching a new humanity rise up with a more advanced consciousness. Talk about casting a die. Overall, the critics reviewed Armored Core 6 as generally favorable, and it stands on a whole lot of 9s out of 10s and 80-somethings out of 100 on the big score aggregators. So people seem to really like this little robot shoot 'em up title. And taking nothing away from FromSoft here, they did a great job. I've complained about other games that cause you to spend a lot of time in bland middle corridors with a beautiful skybox world outside. But to be honest, this is the first game where it is actually an interesting environmental choice. Many of the locations you'll be piloting through are complex, maze-like, and often dripping with atmosphere despite being immense metal cylinders loaded with junk that a mech can casually walk through or speed through. The bellies of volcanic crater-sized reactors, dwarfed forests, and cities beside these titanic constructs feel realized and full of life, despite being devoid of it. And it's all just so good. The game has sold well into the millions by this point, I'm sure guaranteeing another sequel for this franchise. But why this title? 6 Armored Core games in, and I'm now just getting onto robot for unrobot violence? Well, as I said earlier, yes. My personal experience with robots in media was probably pretty similar to a lot of guys around my age. Transformers, Voltron, hell, even the GoBots if there was nothing else on TV. But as much as I know now, a lot of that was anime before it had a word here in the US for it. My actual knowledge of the giant robot subgenre of anime didn't exist until I started getting into Japanimation, as it was known then, in the mid-90s. And even then, it didn't really do anything for me. A lot of military, interpersonal drama sprinkled with space monsters, space rebels, and the punching thereof of robots armed with the latest in planet-bisecting railgun technology. Sure, Gurren Lagann was fun, but not enough to keep me interested in the subject for long. Yet this game changed that for me, at least in the short term. Armored Core 6 is a game of speed and dress-up. While there is certainly strategy and needing to rethink boss fights and possibly needing to rearm your mech mid-stage or after a hard loss, it is not plodding or slow, nor does it require a PhD on top of having graduated with full armors from West Point to understand how to work the battle system for this game to succeed. It is, if nothing else, truly accessible for the newcomer, which has made this game a certified hit with me, the very newcomer of which I was speaking. When I first heard of this game and its title, sure, the historian in me had an inkling as to the name. Surely this wasn't just a mistranslation, and that somebody somewhere in the chain from Miyazaki to me had to know about the historic significance of the Rubicon, at least in Western, if not necessarily world history. But that really is what this game is about. One figure, one character, a one-person army crossing a point of no return and deciding the fate of generations to come. Not necessarily for power, although your blank slate cipher could certainly have such ideas pressed upon them should you wish, but as a choice. If given the fork in the road, a split in the path, evolve humanity to a new level or allow it to continue on its path of futility and self-destruction, which would you choose? Seems clear-cut from the beginning, but it's not. Not really. Do people want such an evolution forced upon them? Is it liberation of free will, or sort of slavery? What are the possible side effects? Could we even truly call ourselves human anymore? Or would we want to? Would we need to? And what if you had to make that binary choice at speed, due to the consequences of your actions leading to an intractable point, even in the Asimov level deep logic of sci-fi? or because of a more economic mercenary greed taking you down that road. It is a heady topic, and one that would require far more of a deep dive than one video game, one entertainment property can offer us. But at least with a game like Armored Core 6, such thoughts can be entertained or possibly ignited among the player base. And yes, if it sounds like I'm overthinking a fighting robot video game, I probably am. But really, it is okay to put deep thought into something, even if only for my own entertainment and betterment. That is, in itself, a form of personal evolution. Armored Core 6 is something of a unicorn game for me. A one-in-a-lifetime title that I will probably say in good faith I tried, I had fun, but I walked away from the further and deeper waters of my own Turning Point River into the wider world of giant robot games. I came, I saw, I conquered, and that was all I needed. I'm good, and this will probably suit me for the next decade to come. But that doesn't mean it's bad, for I certainly think it is not. It is great, and I see why it was such a hit among players worldwide. But my part to play in the ongoing story of the series is over. I've cast my own die, and they came up snake eyes. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to do my own contemplation of the Roman Empire. Thank you for listening. Deleted Saves would like to thank Brad, Keith Gasper, Orden Wells, and Mass Llama for being patrons of the show. If you would like to become a patron of the show, please go to patreon.com and check out Deleted Saves Podcast. All donations go directly towards maintaining the show itself. Thank you.